Okay, this is almost over, I promise. So, what we're going to do now is just bring everything in and place it into that little square. So if you remember, all of these different pieces are, of course, our character, and we have to get all of this fitting into this one central square. So a good thing to do is you can go about it in a couple of different ways. Let's pop over here and I'll show you the whole arrange and layout thing, which could be really bad, or it could be pretty decent. First of all, if you just select something one at a time, it'll lay it out, and but at least it'll start to like scale it down and start setting things in. If you select more than two things, it'll lay them out together. Not the best thing right now because the head's at the back and the tail is in the front. I mean, the beak is kind of sitting in the tail. So let's just think about this in terms of human logic. When you're looking at your character, what you'd like, ideally, is to bring in, to make enough room for everything to fit and for the different disparate parts of your character to sort of align with each other as well. So head, body, head can't take up more area than the body will. You could even decide if you want to stitch these together, if you like, at least to like a small extent. So for example, let's use the sew tool, bring it over just a little bit. Now I'm going to select the shell, do a quick unfold again, and it like optimizes it to fit with itself. And still, because I like the sew tool, there we go. But now that's like the head and the body all in one place, which is kind of wonderful. UV shell, there we go. I'm going to set this up like so. Now I need to make room for everything else. That's basically the limbs and wings. So let's grab these guys, pop them here. Let's put them into the layout area. And wing 1 and wing 2. We're going to figure out how to fit everything in. Don't worry. That's sort of the point of doing it a little bit at a time as well. So, this is paw and claws. This should be one entire leg. And if you've forgotten, double check. One entire leg. Let's come in, do the layout. Hit F. Bring them over. These are 4 legs. So, here's that. G will of course repeat the last thing we did. Really makes it useful. The tail is going to be pretty small. And this. Right? So now you have got a whole bunch of these. They're closer in size. I can now start to like just organize how this is going to lay out over here. So the tail is important, but it's not that important, right? Like you'll be able to get away with a lot of stuff for it to not take too much room. I'm going to just do this. We're going to assume the legs all have equal levels of importance and the wings are pretty decently important as well. So if we're thinking equal, equal, equal with this taking the most space, let's see. Let's see if we can have each of these sort of take up their own like small space that's commensurate with the others. And yes, it will take a few tries. Almost invariably, you're going to do this more than once because you'll think about it and then you'll get a better idea. And that's fine. Not worried about it getting too close. Now the other thing that you can do with these wings is to actually have them stacked on top if you didn't want to join them together, because obviously what's happening over here with them is that this is sort of a symmetrical line, and then everything that goes above and below will kind of match. That's something I actually didn't think of while I was doing it at first, but better late than never. So scaling these down. These are the front legs, as you know. Scale them now. Bring them here. We're probably moving this away. So let's see how we can arrange all of these legs. First. Now if you're looking at this, you're going to start to recognize how much space the body is taking versus the legs. So that once you actually start working in these in a comparative sense, you'll become a lot more comfortable with the idea of scaling things down, because we don't need more detail on the legs than we need on the body. In fact, the face is probably the area that'll need the most detail. So we could, in theory, come back and just be like, oh, yeah, we want to do that more or something. So, claws and paw. This was 4 claws. Let's go here. This is plenty big. Let me just make sure that edges match. Yes. So these edges correspond with this, so that's perfectly okay. Scaling down. I'm going to bring this over here. You may have to change the direction of the painting, like for the fur, but at least it's not going to be in the way. Or what I can do is, there. I'm going to keep this part right here so that the fur area matches, and bring this up instead, along with our claws. And once you get everything in, you can scale things back up. So those are the 2 front legs. This is that other hind. So bring that here. Let's take this. Edges, you can see they interact, which is just what we want. Bring this here. Now if my paw is big, I'll probably scale that leg back up. But it's just a question of how things fit. So this was the thumb. In case you're at all wondering, I actually angled the thumb while I was doing it so that I could keep it apart. And these are the rest of our toes. And you can keep them in order if that's particularly important to you, which it could be. Grab them, scale calm down. You don't need the toes to be huge. So now what I can do, because I have room, I'll probably scale up the legs a little bit, give the wings a little bit more room. Don't forget, we still have to fit in the tail, and we still have the hooves. So let's take a look at this. Why do you suppose that happened? Oh, that is interesting. Probably got rearranged. Oh, that's interesting. This little puppy got left behind. Come to mom. Ah, I see what I did there. One of them is the thumb, and I just counted that as 4. Oh, there we go. Now let's look at these. All definitely part of the same foot. And that belongs to there. Okay. Bringing it here. Whoop, too small. Okay. Hoof. Sole. Backside. I'm going to drag this here. I actually don't mind that being bigger, so I'll even scale this up, but I'll lower that to be a touch smaller. Same with this. Touch smaller. Okay, now let's just scale these things up. Now that we know we have room. Don't overlap your UVs unless you absolutely have to. And 90% of the times, you don't have to. Bring that here. And don't get too close to that edge, for obvious reasons. So notice one of the things that I'm really trying to pay attention to is that if we have corresponding limbs, I want them to have roughly the same surface area. Just because we do not want one leg to be blurry and the other one to be like really ultra detailed. So just keep that in mind. Grab that. Sorry, vertices. Not vertices, UVs. This. I'm going to pull this in a little bit. And yes, there are times when you're just going to have to manually go in and smooth something out to look the way you think it should look. There's that. So this got bigger. I'm going to just go into UVs here, rein this in a little bit, because by doing so, it'll actually give me room, because the shape of your shells makes a difference. And here's this. Check it out. And because I can, I'm going to see if I can just pull this out a little bit too. Getting a little touch hairy there. I'm going to rotate that. A little away. What's left? Good old tail. We can just go and insert that there, I think. And it can be scaled down, lengthened. It's a pretty long tail. And just rotated. There we go. And this becomes our UV map for Franklin the Wise. So let's take a look really quickly. Hit 5. Franklin the Wise, all stitched up, ready to go, UV mapped, all pretty. Because this is in object mode now, I can go into image, I can take out a UV snapshot, and instead of doing a 1024, I'm going to make this a 2048. 2048. And let's go figure out where all of these things are going. It's going into source images, and I want to give it a name. Call it Franklin the Wise. Hit save, apply and close.